Hello, good evening, everyone. Um, we're just gonna give a few minutes about 5 minutes, and then we'll start. Thank you to everyone who has come on this early. It helps. The information is not much, to be honest. So if we start too early, anyone who joins in any later may miss most of it. Obviously, at any point in time, if you've got any questions, feel free to pop it in the chat box. If you have any questions, even now, feel free to pop it in the chat box, and I can have that in mind while I go ahead. We're just waiting till it's 5 minutes past 7, and then we'll start for anyone who is just joining us. I promise to keep it short, simple, and straight to the point. And we are starting now. Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Chijioke. I am currently an SHO in trauma orthopedics in Wrexham Mila Hospital. It's in North Wales. So the topic today is how to prepare for MRCS Part A. This is the outline. We'll be talking about the exam overview, my journey. I'll show you some resources I used and give you some study tips and links to the resources I used. I'm not sure if you'll be able to have access to the slides later, but feel free to take a screenshot and just copy the links off. when I show you the links. I mean, so now I'm assuming that everyone who is here already has an idea of what the MRCS Part A exam is all about. It's a straightforward exam. It's 5 hours. 5 hours sounds like a long time, but when you're seated in the chair, trust me, it goes by quickly. Well, if you know what you're doing. There are two sections to the exam. The paper one, which is the applied basic sciences, anatomy and the likes. There are 180 questions to go through in 180 minutes. And the second paper, the principles of basic surgery and all, it's 120 questions in 120 minutes. So for each question, you've got 1 minute. At the moment, it's computer based. It was changed recently. Computer based. When I mean computer based, I mean you have to go to a center for it. Previously, what they did was everyone used their personal computers, but they thought their questions were leaking too much, so they changed the whole process. Now, my experience, I had booked the exam late last year for January 2022, but due to what I just mentioned, they decided to change the format of the exam. They wanted people to come to a center. Currently, they are using Pearson VUE, which is the same company used by a lot of people who are giving off exams. So after I booked the exam, I had about 2 months of study, and by 2 months of study, it was very casual. I was using MRCS then. I don't think I had studied up more than 500 questions out of the whole question bank within that 2 months. This was very low key, but as soon as they postponed the exam, I stopped studying. I won't lie about that. I stopped studying entirely because you know how it is in medical exams. The motivation only comes as the date comes closer. Then I had a more regular study. 3 months to the exam itself. My exam was moved to May, so 3 months to the exam was when I started getting the heat, feeling the heat of the exam, and then got a lot more serious with the exam. Now, these are the resources I used. Which my one of the best advice I would give for this exam is keep everything you're doing streamlined. Do not try to use everything. If you try to do that, you're going to waste time. I'm sure there are some people who have their exam next month, and obviously this is not the time to start looking at anything new. What you should be doing now is a lot of revisions. So with the EMRCS, my advice is there are offline question banks. I hope there is no EMRCS representative here. There are offline question banks. Now, usually, what I advise with EMRCS is scroll through these questions. Scroll through these questions. If you try to read and have all the details of each question, you're going to spend all day long in one question. Scroll through, read each line once, you know the answer. Now, this exam, they repeat questions a lot. The questions may not be verbatim, but they repeat questions a lot. Please feel free to ask any questions at any point in time, because it's quite straightforward and we're not going to spend a lot of time with what I have to say. So they repeat questions a lot. So you have a lot of advantage if you're able to go through these questions as many times as possible. If you go through EMRCS at least 2 times, you're good for the exam, in the sense that you're probably going to get at least 70%. Well, unfortunately, 70% may not get you a pass. But 70% of the exam, if you go through EMRCS multiple times, you will be steady for you'll be sure of that. Now, after you've gone through the offline question banks, the next thing you want to do is go back to the online question bank, and this time around try and go through each questions a lot faster than you did with the offline one as well, because you would have seen the questions, you would have seen the explanations. So this time around, all you're doing is just to fly through. You're flying through, you're just reminding yourself of what each question is about. Now, yes, EMRCS helps you streamline. It helps you tell. It gives you a record of how you're doing. So by the time you've gone through the questions offline, and then you're going through the questions online again, this is probably a second time you're going through the questions. You have a lot more confidence going through these questions. I didn't do this at first until I got better advice, so I totally abandoned the online one and went offline. When I came back, my performance was a lot better. Initially, the scores were not anything to write home about. So that is EMRCS now. The other resources you need, now there is a guy on YouTube, Dr. Bishoi. He is on YouTube, he's on Telegram, he's on Facebook. Now, he is a doctor who has done a lot of help. He has helped a lot of people pass this MRCS exam. So he has a lot of resources all lined up. He's got timetables, he's got videos. It's all over YouTube. I'm going to give you the links anyway. Now, his voice lectures, what I did with them was I listened to the voice lectures. He's got a playlist of everything arranged. I listened to the voice lectures, and after listening to the voice lectures, in each section, for example, I go through anatomy, or I go through physiology, and then I go through the offline banks. Now, what that means is I have a fair idea of the basic principles, because he's got the experience. He's gone through this for many years now. So what he does is he gives you all the little tricks around each question. He discusses around each question. He tells you the little things you need to know about each question, and then that way, after listening to that, you're able to go through a lot of questions and you understand what's happening there. Then the Fausia sheet. Now, Fausia sheet is like a concentrated collection of questions. It's like a concentrated collection of question banks. What it does is it's almost as if the Royal College of Surgeons guys, they use this. The Fausia sheet is like the baseline from which they extrapolate and build up and give you all the different types of questions they bring up. So once you're able to go through this Fausia sheet, it just clears a lot of things for you. If you're able to go through Fausia sheet at least 2 times. Now, remember I said EMRCS brings you up to 70%. Now, if you're able to go through this Fausia sheet at least 2 times, you're coming up to 75%. And I think the last time there was the score, the passing score was above 75% was in 2020. Now, basically, if you're able to do all of this, you're almost there. Now, the last thing there is the recall questions. Now, unfortunately for me, I only had the time to go through recall questions the night before my exam, and I was able to go through about 5 of them. Now, at this time, I was already very conversant with a lot of the questions, so I'm able to go through a lot of questions in a few hours. Now, what the recall questions do, I saw a bank that was quite most of the questions looked correct to me. So what happened in my situation, what happened was there were a few questions I saw that I didn't really understand why the answers were what they chose. But I saw the questions verbatim in the exam, and well, I didn't have the time to go through it, and all I did was copy and paste. I remember the question, I remember the answer they chose, and I just gave it back to them. Now, what this means is, with recall questions, you're going to see a lot of questions that they are going to repeat verbatim. And if you already know your onions, obviously from studying previously, and if you've got the time to go through these recall questions, and I'm very sure you're going to get above 80% in this exam. And trust me, that is a pass. There hasn't been a history of this MRCS Part A where anyone who got above 80% didn't pass. Now, What else have I got here? Yes. So with Fausia sheet, what I did was I went through. There's a this is the link for I think his name is Dr. Rami. Now it was like a group discussion where he had people read. You know how group discussions work. So they went through each question in the Fausia sheet with explanations of the answers, and with each one they were able to dissect the question, and also they were able to give you the principles to answer very similar questions. This, I personally am not a group study person. I studied for this exam alone, and that's what works for me. Now, but this YouTube video was a group discussion. It was a group discussion because you've got a lot of people answering questions, then you've got someone who knows the answers directing you in the right path. The three links, there are links to each. The Fausia sheet is a couple of questions, so all the three links is all about the explanation of the Fausia sheet, the answers, and all. Now, one very important tip in going through YouTube videos, especially this Fausia sheet, is do not play it at anything less than 1.5 times. Otherwise, I actually play a lot of these videos at 2 times. Otherwise, you're going to spend, because I think the first one is about 5 hours long, the second one about 3 hours, and the third one about 3 hours as well. So that's almost 10. That's more than 10 hours already. And if you want to go through this, you can go through this Fausia sheet at least. If you go through this Fausia sheet up to 3 times, you're doing very well. Now, play these videos at least 1.5 times, because you know how it is in group discussion. Sometimes they drill, so you have to be fast about it. Another thing you can also do is to turn on the closed captions, which are the subtitles. It helps because what you might not hear and you see, even though the closed caption may not be correct, because you have an idea of the context, everything links up and then you keep it going. The links I have here for the first under Dr. Bishoy, the first one is a playlist of his different voice shots explaining a lot of things for each section of the exam. If you can go through a lot of it, I use his videos hand in hand with the MRCS study. It helps me get the basic idea of what I was going into, and then when I start answering the questions, I'm not lost and I'm not failing and I'm not discouraged. And then the second link is a Telegram group created by Dr. Bishoy. Now, the Telegram group, in there, you're going to find lots of resources as well and a lot of noise as well. What I used it for was basically go in there and get some recall questions. That was where I got my recall questions, which I used. And these are just some extra notes, Salah bullets and Omaima notes. It's like a summary of a lot of things. It's bullet points, most of them are. You will just be able to, something you can revise with. But I didn't use it a lot, but it can be helpful if you've got time. But if you do not have time, you can stick with the EMRCS offline and then start online. If you go through, the more times you go through all of these, the more your chances of remembering what they are and reproducing it in the exam. Now, I must say that this exam it is not a study. It is not an exam about what you know or your application of whatever clinically. You can always be a good doctor. You can always study. Studying for an exam is an entirely different ball game from studying to be able to practice. Studying for an exam, you have to work with what the exam is presenting you with. You have to go out. However you can work the system and pass your exam. That is the most important thing. Everything else is secondary. You can, which is why it may not make sense to, because earlier I said while studying the offline EMRCS, just scroll through. The point of scrolling through is you cover a lot of questions in a shorter time. If you decide to read, because I'm sure everyone will be tempted to read, if you decide to read and know it so you can apply it clinically, unfortunately that might not be very helpful. You're going to waste a lot of time. You can read after your exam. We can read for your clinical knowledge after your exam. But for this exam, what you need to do is learn how the questions come, learn how the put in tricks in the questions and pass the exam. I met a guy recently who unfortunately has had to sit for this exam 7 times, and that he has maxed out his chances, and he was disappointed that obviously he cannot go on with a surgical career here in the UK, and that's not good. I did this exam just once, and luckily for me, I had the right information, I had the right resources, and I was able to pass this exam in one go. It's it's doable. It is very doable. Now, I think that really is the end. Yeah, if I could do it, it definitely will. And best of luck to everyone. I've got some questions here. The exam is written about 4 times in a year. Is it 4 times or 3 times now? I'm not entirely sure. It's written in February. It's written in April. It's 3 times: February, April, and September. I think the next cohort is coming up in September. I think 17th. I'm not sure. The cost of the exam is £550, and if you want to register for it, £550. Now imagine the person who has written this exam 7 times. 7 times 550. That's a lot of money. That's if you invest that in something else. Anyway. How do you register for the exam? If you want to register, you just go to the Royal College of Surgeons website. It doesn't matter whether you register with England or Edinburgh, just register. Fill in the details. Usually, you see the requirements in there, and it's straightforward and self-explanatory. Royal College of Surgeons, MRCS Part A. If you put that in the Google and follow that link, and you will be all right. Now, any more questions, please feel free to ask me any questions, especially those who have got your exams in September. I don't know if you've got anything you would like to clarify. Anyone? Any counter opinions? Well, if no questions, then I think that's the end. Now, exams are just a moment stuff. It's whatever happens in the moment is that, and that's the end of it. It doesn't really, the final result doesn't really define whether you are very good. Okay. What to do about not feeling ready? The only thing to do about not feeling ready is to keep going. Keep going. Keep going. The more questions you go through, the better, the more you're gonna feel confident about it. It's a medical exam. You hardly ever feel ready for it. Even the moments before you enter the even before the moment you enter the center, you never feel ready. But you just have to do it. Just keep going. Keep going through all the resources. And if you've got your exam and you're feeling like you're not really ready, I think a final revision resource would be a good final revision resource. Final revision resource would be the Fausia sheet. If you can go through the YouTube videos, you can go through the whole thing in a day. It should help you cover a lot of things that will come out in the exam. They will definitely come out. How to remember all you've studied? The only way to remember all you have studied is repetition, which is why you see a lot of people who have passed this exam talking about how many times they've gone through any one of the resources. So the more times you go through these resources, the closer you are to getting 100% pass. That is it. Just keep going through it as many times as you can. What in my opinion is a must-use resource for success. These, I would say, number 1, 3, and 4. The EMRCS, go through your EMRCS, go through your Fausia sheets, and go through the recall questions. Go through these 3 at least twice each. You're going to pass this exam. You're going to pass this exam. I can almost assure you're going to pass this exam. And the more times you actually do that, the more likelihood you're going to score very, very high. I'm not sure how you can get access to the slides. I'm sure the moderator will let us know. But I'm also happy to send the slides as well. I don't know about the recording as well, but the moderator will answer that too. So for everyone who is going in for the exam, one of the things someone told me was, don't worry about this exam. You're a good test taker. You're going to pass this exam, and it really helped. And I'm here to also tell you that do not worry. Do the needful, and you're going to pass this exam. How about past tests? I did use past tests. That's just the beginning and end of it. A lot of people have recommended it that it helps with the principles of surgery, but I didn't use it myself. I had it in my study folder, but I didn't get the time to go through it. I did. I was working while studying for this exam. I spent 3 months to the exam for intense study, and then I had to take 2 weeks of study leave before the exam itself to study on a daily. And even at that, I still had ATLS course the same week of the exam, so I had a lot going on, so I didn't have the time to go through a lot of the things I could have gone through. But in my experience so far, and from every other person who has also passed this exam, a lot of them did not go through past tests. I think some people have complained that the information is voluminous and it's a bit difficult to read through, but it's up to you. Some of us do not have the brain capacity. Some of you may have, but if you've got the time, sure. But these are the things I use and I passed. And obviously, the most important thing is to pass the exam and not have to sit through this exam a second time or a third time or whatever time. Okay. Any more questions? Please feel free to ask any questions. Anyone? Okay. No questions coming up. So thank you everyone for your time. Thanks for coming on online. Thanks for listening to me. And I really wish you the best of luck. You will do very well in this exam. Just do the needful, go through these question banks a couple of times, and you will definitely pass. Pass is sure. A lot of people fail the exam, but a lot of people will pass this exam. The pass rate is usually less than 40%, but I don't know how come that's the case. But if you do all of these, you'll pass. Just keep at it, keep going. Obviously, consistency is key. Go through the questions every day, at least 200 questions a day. In the beginning, it's going to be difficult. Anyone who's just starting off studying, in the beginning, it's going to be difficult. You're probably going to go through more than 10 questions in a day, but you need to move fast as well and keep going. So, yeah, one more thing for the Telegram group for Dr. Bishore. If you can get across to any of the exam timetables he creates, it helps give you some perspective. It helps you plan your study. And he also, within the timetable, it's a comprehensive timetable. He puts in links to offline mocks that you can as well do. It helps you study. So if you could get across to it, it will help as well. Excuse me. All right. Thank you everyone for coming online. I think that's all I have to say, unless anyone has got any more questions. Anyone? Fine. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. G. That was quite enlightening. Okay, so we'll be sharing the link, having the recordings to this lecture. So we'll be sharing it on the SIGAF group page. And then there's a feedback form in the chat box. So please endeavor to fill them so that you can get your certificate of attendance. Thank you. Then the slide, I will try and get across to Dr. G so that he can send the slide to me. It will also be shared on the SIGAF group pages so that you can have access to them. Okay. Thank you once again, Dr. J.
Thank you. Ahmed, how do you join the group? I'm not sure, to be honest. But if you could check out Sigaf on Twitter. Okay, yeah, the moderator is here to answer you.
Yes. If you want to join the group, just type SIGAF on Google, SIGAF on Google. Then it will the first link that comes up. Click on it and then follow the um, process involved. Then you get to it. I think that's that. Okay. Thank you, everyone.